The key to a successful garden is a solid garden plan, and I'm here today to show you our high-tech garden planning system. Hey friends, it's Barbara Sue at Kowalski Mountain and welcome back to our channel. Now I know it seems kind of late to be talking about a garden plan because especially in Florida, gardens are already in the ground. But here in Kentucky, we are still in the garden planning season. Now, Philip is the master gardener around Kowalski Mountain, and he has been putting together a garden plan. But I wanted to bring you along today and show you an upgrade to our garden planning system. Now he still has a notebook and list, and he's working on his companion garden planting. Now one of the tools that we are using for the very first time this year is an online program called SeedTime. Now we took a few different classes on how to use SeedTime, and we're really excited about the potential that it has. Now I would love to have a subscription to SeedTime, but it's not really in our budget. So this year I'm using the free version, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. Now this is our SeedTime garden plan, and we're looking at an annual view. So you can see I've got January over here, and if I scroll down, it's going to show you all the months of things we need to do in the garden. Now, as I've told you, we are really increasing our gardening game this year. Now that we're on the homestead full-time, the garden needs to support us, but it also needs to support the farm. Now, SeedTime is going to help us plan a garden that will have greater yields, but it also keeps us on track so we don't miss the windows. Now, I know this view is very overwhelming, so I want to take you to the beginning and show you how to create a SeedTime account. So this is the website, and we're going to sign up for free. I'm going to push the button, Get My Free Account. Okay, so here's my name. In the United States, we are in Kentucky, and our zip code is 42121. I think that's right. And I'm going to create a password. And I'm going to sign up. So when you create your profile in SeedTime, you put in your zip code, and that's going to automatically put in your new garden zone, and that's per the new garden zones for 2024. So it's already updated and has all the correct systems. Now, because we're using the free version, we only get to have one garden, and we also don't have access to all of the features in SeedTime. We do have access to the calendar, and this calendar you can change the view. Right now we're looking at the entire garden plan for the entire 18-month season, but we can customize that to meet our needs, but still we can only have one garden. Now here at Kowalski Mountain, we actually have multiple garden zones, and if we were to upgrade to a paid account, we could create layouts, and every single garden would be set up separately. But because we're using the free version, we only have one garden plan. Now we also can use the tasks feature. Now I really like the task feature, which we're going to see in a little bit. And then we also have the journal feature. Now the layout feature is part of the paid version. And as much as I would like to use the paid version, it's really not in our budget. We watched several demos and they had a lifetime option that would have been great, but it just wasn't in our budget this year. So this year we're going to use the free version and get our feet wet with SeedTime. So let me show you how easy it is to build a garden plan in SeedTime. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go right up here to this Add Crop button, and I'm going to push Add Crop. Now they have all kinds of categories, so I'm going to choose, you can either select from the list, and I'm going to choose carrots, or you can type in the list and pull it up. Now you can choose the exact variety you have, like we have Napoli carrots, or you can leave it blank, a general variety. Oops, it didn't take that. Now to add your own custom vegetables, you do have to have the paid program. Now I like that all of the colors are pre-selected for you, so it makes it really easy to find them on the calendar later. So I'm going to push schedule, and that is going to immediately put on the calendar carrots directly onto my SeedTime calendar, following the best guidelines for my garden zone. So you can see here we're in March, and at the end of March we need to be preparing the beds, and then at the very end of March into the beginning of April we can start direct sowing the carrot seeds. Now it also puts onto this calendar a cultivating section. So cultivating refers to weeding and taking care of the plants that you planted, and those are actually on the schedule as well. And then it tells us exactly when we should be harvesting our carrots, and it gives us a window. Now, one of the things I really like about SeedTime is I can filter it out. So right now, this calendar is not very overwhelming because there's only one type of seeds on it. When you look at our SeedTime schedule, this gets really overwhelming really fast. So I like to use the filters. So this time of year, all I want to see is seeding and direct seeding. So seeding would be when I'm going to put it into pots to plant my own seeds. And then direct seeding is when they go into the ground. That is a much more manageable view. Now I'm still looking at the year view. If I only want to look at March's tasks, I'm going to choose my month view. And then I only have to see the month of March. And that is much easier for me to be able to handle the tasks for March versus the entire season. So one of the things I really like about SeedTime is your ability to schedule succession gardening. Because we talk about succession gardening, but we have not successfully followed through. And some of that is you get busy and you forget to do the next thing when you need to do the next thing. This gives us the ability to schedule our succession garden. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it I would like to add a succession. Now, I'm glad this popped up. So with carrots, it's giving me a heat warning, and it's telling me that for this time of year, another round of succession gardening for carrots is not likely going to be successful because it's going to get too hot. You do not know how many things I planted in Florida that didn't do well because of heat, which is just a common problem. So I'm going to show you this on another plant. Let's plant something else. I'm going to delete that. Let's add a new crop. Let's add lettuce. So we're going to just type in here, lettuce. Now you can add the exact variety of lettuce that you want to enter. I'm just going to enter a general one, and I'm going to schedule it. So now my lettuce is right on my SeedTime calendar. Now let's do that succession gardening. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to add a succession. And it went ahead and put it in. You'll notice that let's get rid of, let's filter some of this out. You'll notice that SeedTime for lettuce scheduled it about 2 weeks apart. And that's because when I click on lettuce and look at my advanced settings of lettuce, it gives me all the details about this plant. The scheduling system is going to schedule it in relative to the frost. It gives me my season. It gives me the seeding date, which is 8 weeks before the last frost. All of this is programmed into SeedTime. I don't have to input any of these details unless I create a custom crop in a paid version. Now it's a cool season crop. I can do my plant spacing, which has to do with if you use the layout version. Days to maturity, my harvest window length until the end of the season, and it customizes succession spacing to 2 weeks. Now that's based on the plant itself. Now, if I want to space out my succession plantings a little bit, I can do that. I can just move this and it changes it on the calendar. Now I want to show you what happens when I do this. I'm going to go ahead and do another succession planting, and I'm going to lock them together. So these have been linked so that their planting schedules go together. Look what happens when I move it now. They both moved. Because they are linked, both of them moved together. Now what you can't see, because I turned off all the filters, is that the other tasks are also moving with it. So every time I move something on the calendar, every one of the tasks moves together. This makes me so excited. This makes me feel like we have a better chance at being more successful. So let's turn off some of these filters again. Now we're just going to continue to add crops. Now I want to show you one. Whoops. If you watched my seed video, you know that one of the things we wanted to plant was cabbage and kale. So let's go ahead and put cabbage on my calendar, and I'm going to schedule it. Unfortunately, when we look at this, cabbage should have been seeded the end of February. So no big deal. I'm going to move it. So let's go ahead and move it. I'm going to move it to this week, and I get a heat warning. So unfortunately, because of our later schedule, we are not going to be able to plant any cabbage in this spring garden, which that's fine. I'm going to plant it in the fall, and that is actually the same with the kale. I also get a heat warning regarding the kale. Now, I actually like that it gave me that warning, and the reason is because now I'm not going to waste my seeds. I could go out there and plant a ton of cabbage and a ton of kale, and it might not do well because of the heat, and then my seeds are wasted, and that's kind of a waste of money. So I actually really like this feature that it gave me that warning. Hey friends, I'm going to jump in here and interrupt now to tell you that you can go ahead and schedule your fall garden the same time you plan your spring garden. Simply go to the advanced settings and choose fall and winter for 2024 and push schedule. That will schedule the plants for your fall garden putting them on the schedule now so that you're sure not to miss a single beat. So we'll be sowing our next round of carrots in August. I did want to give a little disclosure about why we haven't started some of our seeds. Philip and I are an off-grid homestead and we are on solar power. Now that's actually going really great, and most of the time we have good solar power. I would say at least 75% of the time we are completely on solar with no generator backup. But during the winter, we have a lot more cold days. We have a lot more cloudy days. We've had a lot of rainy days. And on all of those days, we don't get the sun coverage that we really need to generate our power. And it's on those days that we have to use the generator. Now, things that you would use for seed starting use a lot of energy. You have lights and heating mats and all of those things that require quite a bit of electricity. And so we are actually following a more Amish approach to our seed starting. Philip likes to make friends wherever we go, and he likes to network, and he talks to everybody we know. But it does pay off, I have to admit, as much as I pick on him about it. He has spent a lot of time talking to our Amish neighbors, and he's asked them how they do their seed starting, because they do start seeds, but they don't use any type of electrical systems to give them any help. And so we are kind of following that same pattern. Now that just means that we couldn't start plants probably as early as we really wanted to, like the cabbage and the kale. We didn't really have any way to do that earlier because it just wasn't warm enough. But now it is, and as you look at our seed starting calendar, you're going to see we have a lot of work we need to get done. Now, you just continue to build your calendar exactly like that. So let's add some tomatoes. We're going to add some determinate tomatoes. And you'll notice that it puts the seed time right on there. Let's go ahead and look at the other tasks so you can see the full picture. So it tells me that we need to start planting seeds very soon, in the next couple of weeks. We will start transplanting our tomatoes in the beginning of May. And then we can anticipate harvesting tomatoes into July. So really that's all there is to it, and this is so simple. Let me just add a few more so you can just see how quickly this goes. So let's do broccoli. I'm going to add that. I'm going to schedule it. So broccoli's on there. Let's add some cucumbers. Oops. Going to add that. And all of those things are just going onto my calendar. So maybe I want to do a succession of broccoli. So let's add a succession. Oh, can't do a succession of broccoli. It's going to get too hot. Let's do a succession of cucumbers. So I add that. If you remember with the carrots, the successions were 2 weeks apart. Cucumbers are further apart. So my first planting of cucumbers, and they have numbers on them. So this is seeding cucumber 1. So we're going to seed those mid-April. The next one of seeding cucumbers, seeding 2, is not until the end of May. Now if we click on this, we can see that that's because in the advanced setting, the succession spacing is about 6 weeks apart. And that's based on the harvest windows of every plant. Now we did adjust some of those, and maybe we shouldn't have, because it's built into the system that we're going to have a continual harvest of our plants if we don't adjust them. Now, you do have to link them together if you want things to move together. It doesn't automatically link them. Now, one thing I noticed that not everything is in SeedTime. Let me look at beets for one. I'm going to choose beets. And let me try this because I did not try this. So let me... The one beet is not in here. We are actually going to be planting Mammoth Red Mango. So I'm going to pick that one. And in this label section, I'm going to add here, I'm going to add sugar beets and mangoworts. Now those are varieties of beets that we're going to be planting, and I wanted to be sure to put a note in my SeedTime to let me know it covers those other plants as well. So when I look at this, I can see that I need to do the Mammoth Red Mangoes, the sugar beets, and the mangoworts. Those are all the varieties of beets that we're going to be planting all at one time. Now I could spread them out, and I can also do the succession plantings. I love this feature. Let's do succession, and we get a heat warning. So anything that had a strong heat warning on for either any planting at this time at all, like the cabbage and the kale, both of those are going to have to go into our fall garden. But some of these things, like beets, will also be planted in our fall garden as a succession to our spring garden. All right, so now I think you've got the feel of how SeedTime works. And if you have the paid version, it does so much more. So now we have this really nice schedule of garden stuff that we need to do. Now let's look at how we're going to use this on a weekly basis. Now I actually put a reminder in my calendar every Thursday. It seems to put the starting of the tasks on Thursday that I need to give to Philip his tasks of the week. So let's look at tasks. It tells me that this week we need to be seeding lettuce and broccoli, and that's for my test garden. And you also have a journal. So in the journal, you can make notes. And it's really cool because you can attach the note directly to whatever it is that you planted. So if we want to make a note today, you can put a title here. I don't know what I want to put. I'm just going to put title. You can make your comment here. But if you scroll down, you can add a picture and you can select the planting. So maybe this is about the first round of lettuce I planted. I can attach it to my lettuce, and I can even do a tag. This was about seeding. So I had an issue with the seeds. Maybe I did a germination test on my seeds and I realized they don't have good germination, but I'm going to go ahead and plant them anyway, and I'm going to overplant to kind of make up for that. You can make all of those notes in SeedTime, and then you have a good way to keep track of them. So I really, really like that feature. Now let's look at our real garden plan. And you can see that I'm just going to put on here, I'm just going to have on here seeding, direct seeding, and transplanting, because those are the things that we need to do now. Bed prep is kind of a given to me, that the whole garden area needs to be prepped. And I'm also going to keep cultivating off, because once the garden is in, Philip is going to be out there every day. He's going to be out there every morning, and he's going to be hoeing away. I'm probably still going to be in bed, but he's going to be out there working in the garden. So now I did make some adjustments. So we had a few things on our calendar that I had moved. Celery, I think it was the celery and the parsley. Those all already should have been seeded, but I've adjusted them and I didn't get any of that heat warning, so I went ahead with the adjustment. Now you can see here that I've added our flowers here. Now, one of my dearest friends in the whole world, she watched my seed haul video, and you know, I call that calendula. But she told me to protect me from a die-hard herbalist that would be calendula. So I'm probably still going to call it calendula, but calendula is the correct pronunciation, I think. And I do appreciate her for saving me like that because, you know, here on YouTube, trust me, not everyone is going to give me a nice comment telling me that I pronounced it wrong. Most of them are going to be not very nice. So you can see here we've got corn that we're doing some succession corn tasks. And if I want to make sure that those are always linked together, I can link them. Come on, link, not linking. There it goes. Rural internet again. We're going to have a couple of succession of cucumbers. We don't eat very many cucumbers, so we're not going to get overkill with that. Green beans, we're going to do several successions of that. Lettuce as well. Melons, probably. I put them on the calendar. You know, we don't have to do everything we put on the garden plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So having a plan that we can make adjustments to it is better than not having a plan at all. We've got our peppers, the pumpkins. Now the squash was another one where I put in I put in some notes. So if I look at seeding squash, you can see that means I need to seed the zucchini, the yellow squash, and the loofahs, and that covers everything. And that's kind of my workaround to getting around not being able to create a custom. Now, one thing I didn't do, and I'm just curious, so I want to try this. I'm going to pull up here squash. And maybe this is where I would have found it. So let me just see. Ah, it is. So zucchini is underneath of squash. So this is a time when I can use those varieties to put in the schedule. Okay, now it did it. I see it. So here's my Black Beauties. Let me just see if I edit this one. I don't want to change too much of my actual garden plan, but I'm just curious. If I do yellow squash here, yellow crookneck, yep. So that's where it is. Update. And I'm just curious. I want to see if the loofahs are in here. They are probably a custom plant, but let's just see. Yep. So it's really up to you. Now you can change the colors of these so that they're not the same color. And it's really up to you if you want to put in the different varieties of squash, or if you just want to put in one squash. We're going to plant them all at the same time. We're going to plant the zucchini, the yellow squash, and the loofahs all at the same time. And honestly, I think that's what I'm going to do, only because the calendar is getting really full. So let's go ahead and delete this one out. I'm going to delete it just right here. Now let's look at our task list in our full-on calendar because, you know, it's going to get crazy. So let's look at tasks. And I'm going to do sorts by the week. I'm going to pick one in April. Let's just pick a week in April. Now you can see we're getting really busy. We need to be seeding lettuce, celery, yarrow, parsley, broccoli, tomatoes, peppers, and tomatoes. We have indeterminate and determinate tomatoes. So all that needs to be seeded, and we've got all of our bed prep. We've got transplanting, which we're actually going to be doing that now. So the further into the season, the more busy this gets. Now you can print it, and that way you have something to check off to make sure you're getting all of your tasks done. Once you do a task, so let's say that today is seeding. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. and I'm going to mark it as complete. And that way it removes it from my task list. Otherwise, it's going to keep those tasks on there to remind me you still haven't done that. Now that makes me realize that I made a mistake on our main calendar. We did not start our onions from seeds. We are actually starting them from some transplants that we ordered. They actually came in and they said to go ahead and plant them right away. They didn't mail them until it was safe to plant them, and we need to plant them this week. So I'm going to go ahead and take onions off of the calendar. And when we put them in the ground, I'm going to put them back on so that we can keep track of it. Now there are some things that we are planting that are not in SeedTime. And because I'm using the free version, I can't create a custom seed. Things like our buckwheat, that's not in there. And maybe if I dig a little bit more in the varieties, I'll find some of these things. Let's see, another one was broomcorn. Broomcorn was not in there. It's also known as sorghum, and that's something that we're planting for the animals. So that is on my regular calendar, not in my SeedTime. Well, friends, I don't know about you, but we are getting really excited about gardening season. Now, if you're interested in checking out SeedTime, check it out below. I have a link for you, and you can click on that and try out a free account. You can use the free version for as long as you want. Now, when you first go into it, I do believe you will have the full subscription for the trial period. So just be aware that things like layout you cannot use in the free version. So you don't want to create this beautiful layout in a trial period and then have it disappear. I personally really like it, and I would really like to use it full time. But for now, we're going to give it a go this year using the free version, and we'll see how it goes. Well, friends, I hope you have an amazing gardening season. Now, my youngest daughter, Faith, lives in Tennessee, and she used to talk about how hard it was to watch all of us gardening in Florida, and she was sitting there in Tennessee disappointed because she can't garden yet. And now I know exactly how she feels. Her sister Caitlin is busy planting her garden. We're sitting up here twiddling our thumbs, thinking about the gardening season. Friends, don't worry. For those of us up north, we will get our chance. When the Florida gardens are all wrapped up, we are going to be in the thick of it. I'm looking forward to a very successful gardening season, and I hope you have one too. Now check out SeedTime and tell me in the comments if you used it. I'd love to hear your success with it. Well, friends, as always, we really appreciate you watching, especially to the very end. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that button. We'd love you to be a part of the Kowalski Mountain family. We'll see you next time.